what we're doing is right. This is really good. We are saving fish. Most of these fish would have been in somebody's stomach by now. They were going to be eaten. There was no question about it.
We wanted to define what the animals were going to be first, the stories and the animals themselves, build the best facilities for them in terms of the kinds of aquariums that they would need to live in.
We want to talk about the animals and their place in our world and how we relate to that. And what are the things that we can do to help them succeed? Because we need the biodiversity within our environments for the health of the planet. These are the types of stories that we want to be able to tell.
In recent years, new aquariums open their doors to thousands of visitors. They boast of new technologies, new construction techniques, more diverse species, and unseen exotic environments. The challenges behind the engineering, the science, and the medicine grow in proportion to the vision of the aquarium builders. Every animal, every plant, even the water and light in an aquarium, needs the exquisite care of biologists, doctors, and aquarists to maintain these inland oceans and allow the animals within to survive and thrive. Come now to the world's largest aquarium, the Georgia Aquarium, and meet the keepers of the deep.
Funding for Georgia Aquarium Keepers of the Deep was made possible in part by
Bell South, offering local and long-distance voice and data services and networking solutions to residences and businesses all across Georgia.
When you visit the Georgia Aquarium, Georgia Pacific will be there. Our building products were used in construction. In the food court, you'll find our Dixie cups, plates, and GP napkins. In the offices, our printer and copier paper. And in the restrooms, you'll find our dispensers, paper towels, and even... well, you get the idea. Georgia Pacific, proud sponsor of the Cold Water Quest at the Georgia Aquarium.
TVS, a global architecture and interior design firm with offices in Atlanta, Chicago, and Dubai. In its 35 years, TVS has designed many of the Southeast signature buildings and is proud to have designed the Georgia Aquarium.
The day starts early for the animal husbandry staff of the Georgia Aquarium.
I get here with the sun very early in the morning. Come in, I weigh out the food and clean up the dishes, pull food out of the freezer, and then whatever else at this point needs to be done. Help out as many departments as I can getting their food ready.
As more people come in and the day starts to roll around at 7 o'clock, more people are initiated into the process, and by 8, 9 o'clock our commissary is hopping with 8, 10, 12 people.
I am preparing food for all of the animals in the aquarium. Right now, we are using about 300, 400 pounds a day. We expect that to go up a lot in the next couple of weeks.
The food preparation job is one of the most thankless jobs because they're dealing with frozen fish and thawing fish at early morning hours, and then they're dealing with scrubbing buckets and hosing floors and scrubbing walls. 100,000 mouths to feed is phenomenal.
Food preparation and diet administration is a 14-hour process that continues throughout the day. Biologists who work with specific animals in the aquarium often start their day preparing food for animals under their care.
Well, I'm sorting out all of the fish for our whale feeds. Each whale eats roughly 16 to 18 kilos throughout the day. What I have right here is herring, the capelin is over here, and then squid. So again, this is all restaurant quality food. With beluga whales and with cetaceans in general, and pinnipeds, we like to make sure that we check every fish before we feed it to them. So they actually get checked about 3 or 4 times a day. We want to make sure that there are no cuts or abrasions. For example, this fish right here has lots of cuts, and that's where bacteria can get in. So every fish that we feed to this whale, or to the whales, are checked a couple of times a day. And also, if we drop a fish on the floor, we make sure we throw it out. So there's no 5-second rule.
Attentiveness to the nutritional needs of the animals in this aquarium setting relates directly to animals in the wild.
Some of the diseases that are popping up out in the wild populations are things that are directly related to nutrition. And you need to understand the biology of the animals in some setting to be able to quantify things, to be able to understand what's going on nutritionally out in the wild. And until these animals were able to be cared for in an aquarium setting, in a zoological setting, the nutritional aspects of what was going on in the wild were being missed. That's now quantified and understood, and there's a way now to cope with that.
Whale sharks, they are fed by a gantry that stations over the exhibit. That cues the whale sharks that it's feeding time, so they start coming into position. Once they're in position, then the staff take ladles of food and pour it in the water, and the whale sharks just sit there, open up their mouth, and just suck it all in, and they do so in very short order.
As some of the feeding is underway, other activities such as habitat cleaning and environmental enrichment may just be getting underway. Maintenance and cleaning crews attend to pressing chores before doors open to the public. The staff's routines constantly change and evolve as more animals are added, as more visitors come through the doors, and as new challenges and discoveries present themselves. And all this started with the vision of someone who wanted to give back to the community.
Thank you. Thank you.
In November of 2005, Bernie Marcus, philanthropist and co-founder of the retail giant Home Depot, opened the doors to the Georgia Aquarium.
I just wanted to do something for the people of the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta, and it really came out of that. And I tried to think of what would be good, what would really be good that everybody would enjoy, whether you're young or old or rich or poor, whether you're black or white. It really makes no difference, because in everything I looked at, there would be 10% of the people would be interested, 15%. Well, when you look at an aquarium, who is not interested? Everybody's interested in the aquarium. I mean, you could almost say 100%.
One of the first meetings we had with the Marcus Foundation was more of a brain dump from them of what it was they wanted to design. And they had been working on it for quite a few months before we got on board. One of our associates described it as trying to take a drink of water out of a fire hydrant. So it was a lot of information in a short period of time. They had been to aquariums all over the world, and it was like, hey, I'm giving a big gift here, and I want everyone to see all of these things that I've seen around the world.
Measured by water volume at more than 8 million gallons, the Georgia Aquarium is the largest in the world. It houses 46 exhibit displays encompassing nearly 100 habitats of aquatic life. The smallest, a jewel tank that houses the blue-banded goby, to the 6.2 million gallon Ocean Voyager display that's now home to 2 specimens of the world's largest fish, the whale shark. Acrylic panels nearly 2 feet thick separate visitors from this undersea world.
Coral reef tank was another challenge, because here we're trying to do something that really had also never been done in the United States on this scale. This is 165,000 gallons. It's a live reef in Atlanta. So we had to create water motion devices, overhead surge devices, get sunlight and artificial light into this tank.
The aquarium opened just 2.5 years after groundbreaking. To pull off a grand vision of an aquarium in a short amount of time, Marcus assembled a team to help bring his vision to life. Employee number 1, Jeff Swanigan, who came from the Florida Aquarium, would lead the team and be the executive director. Bruce Carlson from the Waikiki Aquarium in Hawaii would direct the education and conservation efforts of the aquarium and drive the design of the exhibit habitats. Ray Davis from SeaWorld in Florida would head zoological operations. That daunting task of creating and maintaining habitats and environments for all the animals and making sure they all remain healthy. This team, plus architects, engineers, and consultants, would create from scratch, nearly 300 miles inland from the nearest ocean, an aquarium of aquariums.
The standards and the bar for us was very high. We were going to have the financial resources to dream our biggest dreams. It is something that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So it's an immense privilege to put it all together, to do the first napkin drawing, if you will.
Well, a lot of public aquariums are built, they build the building first and then they try to fit the animals in. And we wanted to come at it from completely the other direction. We wanted to define what the animals were going to be first, the stories and the animals themselves, build the best facilities for them in terms of the kinds of aquariums that they would need to live in, ultimately organize them in a logical way, and then build a building around it. So we went from the inside out instead of the outside in.
We want to talk about the animals and their place in our world and how we relate to that. And what are the things that we can do to help them succeed? Because we need the biodiversity within our environments for the health of the planet.
But at the same time, we had to find animals that were compelling and interesting for people to come in and view. And we also had to make sure that we could keep them alive in aquariums. There's still a lot of things that we don't know how to keep, we don't know how to collect them and so forth. We had to literally create oceans, multiple oceans here in Atlanta to keep many of these creatures alive and well.
The aquarium designers wanted visitors to have an experience that was more than just a time to look at animals. They wanted an experience that would last a lifetime.
Very early on, I had some experiences where I realized what I thought I was teaching lessons about endangered species weren't near as important as creating those moments where grandfather and grandson have a moment and they remember that forever. So even if we design something for a 6-year-old, the fact that grandpa or grandma or the father and dad or uncle took the photograph, it's that moment that creates that teaching moment that will last for lifelong worth of memory.
Designated teams of scientists, engineers, and veterinarians work around the clock to care for the aquarium's growing population of animals. The work goes on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, husbandry is the practice of animal care. So if you have pets at home, if you're taking care of your dog, you're practicing husbandry. The main focus of the husbandry staff is twofold. Number one is animal care, making sure that the animals are happy and healthy and are thriving. And number two is exhibitry, making sure that our exhibits are ready and presentable to the public. There are 60 different environments. Each one is very unique. And the interesting thing about these environments is a very small exhibit is much less forgiving, if you will, than a large exhibit. The only other area that you hear the terminology life support is in advanced human health care. And when you're providing for the essentials of a challenged patient. These animals require life support operators to establish the fundamental environment that they're in.
Water, with all of the animals we work with, that's their world. That's their environment. That's where they eat, sleep, use the bathroom, eat their dinner, everything. So water is everything for them. So when animals are in a captive setting, we're controlling their world, we're controlling their environment. And if you take just the analogy of if they're out in the ocean and they swim into an area that's either polluted or the dissolved oxygen level in the water is not sufficient, most of the time, unless those animals are already sick or suffering from an illness, they can go away from that. They can swim away. Doesn't matter whether they're an air breather or a fish or an invertebrate, they can get out of that environment and go someplace else.
But here, we have a closed system, a closed environment, and we're in charge of it. So we always have to maintain pristine water quality conditions because our animals can't go away. They can't go someplace else. Their world is much smaller here.
The aquarium's husbandry staff, along with engineering and operations, work hand in hand to maintain nearly 100 habitats on a 24-hour-a-day basis.
The animals are really my priority. The guests are secondary to me. Right now we have to maintain animal well-being and then make sure they're safe, unlike a home aquarist where you have a few fish and one dies, two dies, or maybe you kill off your whole tank. Even though it's pretty expensive, you would never want something like that to happen here.
We pretty much have water quality testing that takes place most of the day, every day, and sometimes into the night. There are times where we will be in the laboratory at night running water quality testing. We have life support staff here all night long, every night. This is a huge place, and with nearly 8 million gallons of water, water quality and water chemistry testing takes a huge amount of time, but it's the most important thing we do.
This exhibit as a whole, just this one tank has over 70 pumps that circulate the water. If we look at the entire building, we actually have close to 300 pumps inside this building. We have well over 54 sand filters, 26 protein skimmers, side stream devices like temperature and phosphate control, disinfection. So there's many different pieces of equipment related to an exhibit of this size. So we're currently turn this exhibit over or run every drop of water through the exhibit, or through the equipment rather, every 80 to 90 minutes. And we have the capability of doing 60. These animals come from around the world. Every ocean body is a different chemistry makeup, a different temperature. So we have to mimic the body of water that these animals come from. The animals are all different. Some of them like to lay in an area where it's really stagnant and no flow. Other animals want to hang out in a current scenario. Others want to live by rockwork, others don't. So we really have to build